Shalom. Thanks for joining me today. Several years ago, back in the 90s, when I worked at Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan, I was directing a Detroit Family Project, is what they called it, and it was in the health departments. And we went in the health departments and we did parenting classes with whoever was in the waiting rooms. Now, the university also did internal evaluations. And so part of my job was that I supervised the people who went out and did the parenting classes, but also I was supervising people who were on the evaluation team that went out and they talked to clients. And we generally would send out two evaluators together to be able to interview the people. And so on this team was Mary and Barbara. Okay. And Barbara was an older woman than Mary, and but they both had the skills and they went out. Now Mary had said that she hadn't been feeling too good, but that she was up to going on this particular visit to this particular health center. So probably halfway the day, Barbara called me. She says Mary's not been feeling well at all, and so she's been taking these little antacid tablets or something. The closest I can think of something like a Pepto-Bismol, but in a tablet form. And so I said, well, if she's not feeling well, maybe she just, needs to leave. So anyway, Barbara says she's going to try to stick it out. So a little bit later on that afternoon, Barbara called back and she said, we're taking Mary to the hospital. Something ain't right. So after a while, they called back again, and Mary gave birth. Okay, so I'm saying, like, how is this? Now Mary was married, and she already had another child, but I come to find out that the first child happened the same way too. That she didn't realize she was pregnant, and right up to when she went into labor and had the baby was when the first thing she knew that she was pregnant. That seemed to be a little unbelievable, but I got another story. And this is a dear friend of mine, okay? And she and her husband, I'm going to call her Carla and her husband, Joseph, okay? So, and I want to tell you the scripture is applicable to all of our life experiences, no matter how it is. But anyway, my friend, Carla, she had been married for many years, okay? And the youngest of her three girls was 10. And Carla developed a growth in her abdomen that the doctors diagnosed as a benign tumor, okay? And the problem was that the tumor continued to grow, okay? Now, she and her husband were avid golfing fanatics. Fanatics because part of the year they would live in Detroit, and the winters they would winter in Myrtle Beach because of the golfing that was there. And they would do golfing jaunts all across the country, okay? So despite this uncomfortable tumor, they went to New Jersey for a golf tournament. And during the stay, Carla began to bleed, and they called for an ambulance. And when she arrived at the emergency room, the doctors told her that she was giving birth. Okay, and when she told me this to me, she was just shocked. Okay, because over this unknown pregnancy, and angry at the incompetent doctors who had told her it was a tumor, and she was embarrassed that her and her husband hadn't known that she was pregnant, especially after having three children. So they weren't looking to have any more children. Okay, so they quickly hatched a plan to give this baby boy, that the boy was born healthy and everything, and they're in New Jersey. She had this baby. She lived in Detroit. Okay, so they were going to give the baby to her brother in Texas who wanted children, but he and his wife had not been able to have a child. So Carla and her husband, they flew down to Texas with the newborn baby. But she said there was so much discord in her brother's home that she could not bear to leave the child there. Okay. So then, plan B, she calls home and tries to explain to her three girls that they have a brother, but only until she can find somebody to adopt him. Okay, the girls beg and cry for college to keep their brother and promise that they would raise and they would help raise him. So baby Joseph goes home and is raised by four loving moms. Okay, now let's fast forward 18 years. Now, even though I knew her well, this family was not a religious family. And I knew her from, the Johnson stuff, and we would get together and play Tonk and with some of her other relatives and stuff like this. But this was a sort of a partying family. So I know they raised him in the worldly way, okay? And so some of the things that people live by, and I'm just, because I hadn't heard her say this to him, but I can tell you some of the worldly things because I was raised worldly by worldly people, okay? And some of the things, it's a dog eat dog world. Get them before they get you. Do unto others as they do unto you. Make them pay, okay? Do what you want, just don't get caught, okay? So, and I know mentally, because I know the results of this, is that it had detrimental effects on Joseph. Okay. One day he got into a heated argument with a guy, went home, got a gun, went back to where the guy was. Now, this is a whole lot because a lot of times you'll be arguing with somebody, and once you leave, it kind of diffuses or your right mind kicks in. But he went back and shot and killed the guy. And it was a horrible shock to their family. They couldn't understand it. And at the time, I couldn't either. It was just unfathomable that that would happen. Anyway, he went to prison and he wasn't released until he was 33. And the last time I spoke to her, it was a few years back. He was getting his life together. He was getting in order. But what Joseph missed in his maturing was applying scripture that would keep him from following the world's ways. Whether his parents would teach him or he was with other people that would teach him or just being aware. But Proverbs 4:26 and 27 says, ponder the path of thy feet and let all thy ways be established. Turn not to the right hand nor to the left. Remove thy foot from evil. All right. Thanks for joining me today. Remember to like and share and subscribe if you haven't already.